Hello friends, welcome to all to this second talk. I hope some of you have attended yesterday's talk and have learned a lot of things on enlightened citizenship and Indian society. Today, Swami Tyagarupananda will be giving us thoughts on the Karma Yoga, which is the principal teaching taught in Bhagavad Gita as well, and which Swami Vivekananda also emphasized. It is the path of action. So how should we act? So what kind of attitude should we have towards our day-to-day actions? So many people often ask the question, how to practice spirituality. So for practicing spirituality, it is always good that you start with some form of meditation, some form of prayer, as Swamiji said yesterday, in a corner of a room during some particular time of the day. But that if you continue this practice for a long, then you are practicing a religious life and a secular life in a different mode. So what if you elevate this teaching to one step further, then you have to resolve this difference between religious life and secular life. Our secular life can itself be the spiritual life, the religious life. How we should do it? That is the path of action. What kind of attitude we should have towards our day-to-day actions? Can we serve people with the spirit of Shiva Jnana Jiva Seva? Can we do the work as a worship or as a reverence to the God? Can we appreciate the universal beauty of the Godhood? So these concepts all come under the purview of Karma Yoga. Now I welcome Swamiji to come on the dais and please begin the talk on Karma Yoga, the doctrine of Swami Vivekananda, revisited on his 150th birth anniversary.
So I once again thank all of you who have been kind enough to be present today. And I extend warm words of gratitude to the Vivekananda Samiti at IIT Kanpur for allowing me to convey my thoughts, share my thoughts. And today the topic is Karma Yoga. Yesterday's was somewhat of a, you could say, the topic at least stood as, within quotes, secular, enlightened citizenship. But today's is directly has something to do with philosophy or religion. I would start with a small story, or rather an incident which comes in the book Devi Mahatmya, also known as the Chandi. This is a book which is often used during festivals. Okay. So the story, actually the book starts with this story. It is this: there was a king. His name was Suratha. This king, he was looking after his small kingdom, and one day his adversaries, the Kolas, they drive him away from his own kingdom. The king, unable to retrieve his own, he goes wandering into the forest, but in his mind, he broods over his kingdom, his wealth, his property, his animals. He is unable to rid his mind of his property. Although he has physically come at a distance into the forest, his mind is not calm. It is restless, it is anxious. Suratha, unable to solve this riddle, this eternal riddle of our mind tracing back to events which have already been performed, there is nothing in his hand which can be done. Suratha is morose, and as he loiters around in the forest, he meets a Vaishya, a merchant. His name is Samadhi. That is his name. The king goes up to the merchant and says, "Who are you? Why are you here?" The merchant has a still murker story to offer. He says that, "Well, my name is Samadhi, and my wife and my sons, they threw me out from the family. But imagine the grief, imagine the puzzle. I go on day in and day out thinking about them. They do not want me in the family, and yet my mind goes on thinking about them, about their kalyana. Are they well? Are they living their lives fully? Are they happy? I can't get rid of this perplexity of mind. How to get rid of this?" Together they go up to, in the forest, there is a hermitage. The person in charge, his name is Medha. So they go up to the sage, his name is Medha, and say, both of us, we have the same question in mind. There is a riddle that why do we cling to our earlier propensities, earlier events? What is the way to get rid of this? Is there a shortcut? How to get rid of this dilemma of events when we are pulled by forces beyond our control? The teaching that this sage or the Medha Rishi offers, this teaching compiled together, is known as the Devi Mahatmya or Chandi. Many of you must have seen the Durga Puja being performed. Okay? During the Durga Puja, for 3 days this book is read parallelly along with the main puja. Chandi Path. Chandi Path. So this is done parallelly with the puja. So this book, in a sense, is supposed to epitomize or contain the essence of this worship. But this is not what I am stressing on. What I wanted to stress on is the final climax of the teachings in this book. The teaching finally ends with the king Suratha being granted a boon that may he get back his own kingdom. Okay? And the king is happy with that. He gets back his own kingdom, Suratha. And the Samadhi, the Vaishya, the merchant, he also is happy. Why? Because he has got his boon, what he has craved for. He had wanted nirvasana. He had wanted mukti. So the book actually has a two-way classification of the path or the goal for human beings. One is termed in Sanskrit as the Abhyudaya, worldly prosperity. And the second one is Nishreyas. Nishreyas is the path of renunciation, the path of mukti. Thus, in our heritage, both worldly prosperity and giving up hearth and home for the highest goal of human life, that is mukti, have been lauded. Not one at the expense of the other. It depends on who you are. What are you an adhikari for? Adhikari. If you want to get into the IIT, you have to sit for the joint entrance examination. You are picked up. You are the adhikari for starting here. So similarly, religion also picks up the adhikari for abhyudaya, for nishriyas. Hence, karma has not been treated as being subservient to dharma or religion. In fact, karma has been supposed to be a part of dharma. It is a way by which men can get to the highest goal. Since we are discussing karma yoga according to Swami Vivekananda, it is fitting that I start with some stories, some anecdotes that come in the book Karma Yoga. Swamiji in fact has 4 books: Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Raja Yoga, and another one, anyone? There is Bhakti Yoga. These are the 4 books on yoga. So the Karma Yoga books has a number of wonderful stories. Okay, if you don't want to read philosophies, you can just browse through the books for these stories. So I'll tell you one such story actually. This story goes like this. There was a person, a brahmachari, a vain person. Okay, he had done some sadhana, but he thought himself to be deeply religious. So one day, he goes up to a household and he waits at the door for a long time. He became furious, he became angry. Why should he be made to wait for such a long time? The alms must come fast. If you want to give something, do it fast. Don't ask me to delay. Don't get me delayed, that is. There is a voice from within, a lady speaking. The lady says, okay, brahmachari, you have to wait for a time. I know that you have the power to punish people. I know that if you want to, you can throw curses at us. Don't do that. Wait for a while, I am coming. After a time, the lady comes out. The young woman, she says that, well, brahmachari, I am sorry that you have to wait for this time. The brahmachari is surprised. He says, mother, how can you read the mind? I was really angry with you. I was getting angry. But how do you know that I can throw curses at you which can result in some problems? Are you a thought reader? The lady innocently says that, well, I don't do any other sadhana. I take care of the household. My mother-in-law and my father-in-law both are aged. I serve them with all my might. I do that truthfully. And out of that, I have had some knowledge. If you want to have more of this knowledge, you can go up to that butcher in that city. The butcher, he sells meat. Okay? You must go up to him to have more of this knowledge. The brahmachari is indignant, he is angry. What do you mean? I am brahmachari. And ask me to go up to the butcher to have this knowledge. But he, on second thought, he decides to go up to the butcher. He is a fat man with a knife in hand. He has plenty of meat. There are plenty of customers. And the brahmachari is standing in a corner. The butcher tells him, I know that that lady has sent you, okay? You wait for a while. I'll attend on you. Don't be in a hurry. So the brahmachari, he is a bit indignant, but he has no other options. He has to sit down. So the butcher goes about his job. He sells the meat. He speaks to the customer. And he counts the money, keeps it for a while. And after the whole work is finished, he washes his hands and then starts speaking with the brahmachari. The brahmachari says, how do you know that that lady has sent me to you? The butcher then says, you see, I am a hunter. I was born into such a tribe. And according to my propensities and my jati, that is my caste, I do this job. I sell meat, I kill animals, but I do that truthfully, with all the dedication, truthfulness and honesty that this work demands. And because of that, through that, by practicing this, I have had knowledge. I can share this with you. Swamiji says in his book, the knowledge that this butcher shares with his brahmachari has been codified and has been termed the Vyadha Gita. Vyadha Gita. So in India, karma, in our eyes, the most nefarious of activities, okay? Killing an animal, selling its meat. A butcher, he shares his knowledge with brahmachari, supposed to be much higher on the caste ladder. But a person by proper work, dedicatedly done, he can have the highest knowledge. And this is what Karma Yoga stands for. There we didn't question in which caste he was born in. It was his work which finally took up to this height, where he could speak as a teacher to this brahmachari. Swamiji has another story, is similarly interesting. The story runs thus, okay? There was a teacher and he had a student. The student asked his teacher, "Sir, who is a higher person, a grihastha, a householder, or a sannyasin who has given up hearth and home?" The teacher said, "Wait for a while. You'll be able to understand it for yourself." The teacher leads the student by the hand and they reach up to a Swayamvara Sabha, Swayamvara, where a princess is supposed to choose a husband for himself. They wait in a corner and see the fun going around. Many princes have arrived and they are all seated on chairs, all waiting for the grace of the princess. The princess is there, garland in hand. She goes from one chair to another. As she rejects one and moves to another one, the earlier person, his face becomes dark and pale. He's rejected after all, okay? The princess goes through the entire hall. She can't select any of them. Suddenly she sees a sannyasin sitting in a corner. He too has come as a spectator. And the princess is suddenly enamored. She throws the garland on the sannyasin. Okay? Sannyasin says, "Why have you chosen me? I am not destined to marry." The king calls aloud. The king, the father of the princess, she says, "Don't worry, you don't have a property for yourself, is it? Are you worried for that? If you marry my daughter, I will give you half of my kingdom in addition to my daughter." Okay? But the sannyasin isn't pleased at all. He starts running. Swamiji's story goes on. The princess also starts running along with the sannyasin. Okay? But the sannyasin, of course, is a faster. He is youthful and strong and soon disappears into the forest. And the princess, unable to get what she had set her mind on, sits below a tree and goes on weeping. In the meantime, the teacher and the disciple, who was looking for an answer, they come up to the princess. The dusk has fallen and they decide to spend the night below the tree. How do they spend the night? Where do they have the food from? So they get hold of a few twigs, dry branches, and decides to put it alight. As they put the light, as the blazing fire is on, they start wondering, where do they get the food from? The fire is there. They require the food to cook, to eat. And suddenly they hear the chirping of birds from above. Okay? The birds are talking amongst themselves. What are they saying? There is a family of birds. There is a father, there is a mother, there are two children. The father bird says to his wife that, "Well, our Atithi who arrives without any fixed date, he is an Atithi. They have come. So it's our duty to serve them. So what do we do? How do we serve them?" So the father says that, "Well, I am prepared to sacrifice myself for them." And suddenly, without their being able to resist the bird comes flying and disappears into the fire. It gets burned. The mother bird, the wife of the bird which has immolated himself, she feels that she should also carry forward the message of her husband. She also comes flying and disappears with the fire. The children also follow their guardians, their parents. All the four birds are burnt. The teacher now looks up to the disciple and says that, "Did you see? These are the householders who are the ideal ones, who can sacrifice themselves for others. And look at the sannyasa. He could get the highest property and the best that the world can offer, and yet he could desist from that. So each is great in his own place. The sannyasin is right in his own path. The grihastha, the man in the world, he too can reach up to the highest goal in human life by sacrifice, by giving himself or herself for the sake of others. In India, this has been the tradition. The grihastha, the pillar on which the society stands, is the house of the householder. It is on that all the different stations in life, whether brahmacharya or garhastya or banaprastha or sannyasa, all of them stand on the pillars of the householder. He is the pillar on which worldly prosperity comes. He is the pillar on which the different stations in life, people in different stations in life, they have their sustenance, their living. In India, therefore, work has always been considered to be one of the goals to realize God. The point is, this outlook towards work, how do we put the philosophy behind this? How do we treat it as a philosophical path with a firm footing, with a firm basement? For this, we ought to look up to that book, Bhagavad Gita, that we had referred to yesterday. Yesterday we had a few inklings from the Bhagavad Gita. We had discussed some aspects, that is. We'll today take up a few more aspects. Before that, I'll tell you one experience of mine. A few days earlier, you know that Swami Vivekananda's 150th birth anniversary is being celebrated in different corners now, both in governmental organizations and in non-governmental organizations as well. There's suddenly a spurt of festivals, activities, and with that, people with some idea of Swamiji's teachings, like us, are being invited in different places. So I had the opportunity a few days earlier to visit the Durgapur steel plant. I was amazed to know that the steel plant employs a total of 17,000 workers. Okay. In fact, the topic there I was supposed to speak on gave me as a topic that Swami Vivekananda, his contribution and his work ethics for management, that is for managerial workers. I remember one of the Swamiji's teachings that he would quote often and often. He would say that, well, to be a good worker, or more accurately to be a good leader, you have got to be a sirdar. He would often say, sirdar to sardar. Sirdar, when he is able to give his sir, his head, he can be a sardar. What does he mean really? What he means is this: if you want to be a leader, everyone aspires to be a leader, isn't it? Leader hunting is one of the aspects of management. In today's interviews, we often have group discussions. Young boys and girls will be knowing that today's interviews are no longer a discussion that goes on with only a single person. They are sometimes asked to sit for group discussions. So that a topic is given to you, a topic is given to say 6 persons. The persons who are conducting the interview, they notice who are the leaders. Leaders mean, what do you stand for? How do you stand for a leader? Leader is a person who is able to broach a topic, bring others around to his point of view. But how does he do that really? He does that by first taking the burden on his own shoulders. This is what Karma Yoga has as an ideal. Karma Yoga has 2 parts to it. One is the efficiency part. Another is the attitudinal part. Karma Yoga tells you that you ought to do works with the highest degree of efficiency. But the second part is more difficult. It tells you that you mustn't crave for the fruits of work. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturbhu mate sangostva karmani. It's a difficult concept, okay? But it's enlightening to listen to this concept even. What does it say? Karmani eva adhikara te. You have your right to work. Karmani. Karmani is Saptami Vibhakti. It says, in work you have the rights. Karmani eva adhikara te. Ma phaleshu kadachana. Ma means not. Not. Phaleshu in works. Kadachana eva. Why? Ma karma phala hetu bhu. It says, do not be guided by the fruits of work. What does it really mean? I work hard for a scientific paper. I want to get it published in a journal. But unfortunately, the editors turn it down. They pick up a small hole of mine and they consider it for a later publication. I get terribly upset. I don't get my PhD on time. My guide postpones it. Is it improper? Shouldn't I crave for the fruits of work? If I study hard and appear for the exams, if I am a teacher, I work hard. If the students blame me for nothing in the students' evaluation, if the students blame me that I haven't taught properly, won't I get upset? Would that be improper? Would that be going against the current of a human being? It's not that. What it says is, you develop this attitude of remaining neutral, not indifferent. Remaining neutral. Indifference is udasina. Udasina is a person who is a selfish person. Okay? I was just chatting with my young ex-students yesterday. I was telling them, I had the opportunity to study in one government college in West Bengal. It is supposed to be a very good government college. My subject was economics. Okay? So earlier to that, I had studied in a school. It was a very, very disciplined school. Teachers and we had some of our monks concerned about every detail of our lives. Okay? Then I moved to this government college. I watched professors, very serious, erudite teachers. Okay? They would teach the subjects and then they'll disappear to their rooms. I would sometimes ask myself, why shouldn't the teachers come and talk to us? We have just come into the college. Many of us haven't known much about life. Shouldn't we have some of their company so that they guide us? They help us traverse this otherwise unknown college life. But that is the way, or that was the way rather, I found, that teachers are supposed only to teach and not to share the life's experience with the students. But actually Karma Yoga demands that you ought to go beyond your duties. You shouldn't be stuck only in your duties. You must be able to give more than what the duty demands from you. Academic institutions develop when this close rapport between teachers and students grow up. In fact, Ramakrishna Mission has a number of education institutions. In fact, I am proud to tell you that we have plenty of students from Ramakrishna Mission in the IIT Kanpur. To me, one of the important values that an educational institution ought to incorporate in students is that teaching is not merely for getting a job. The teaching is also there for the love of learning, the love of knowledge. I believe that one of the important values that Ramakrishna Mission has been able to incorporate to a degree in our students, I wouldn't say, we can't claim it's full. To a degree, I would say that they have at least learned or felt the necessity of going for higher education instead of going for a job-oriented course immediately. But I believe for this, we ought to have a more closer rapport between teachers and students. An institution can only grow when there is a closer feedback between teachers and students. Many of the institutions of the Ramakrishna Mission have been residential character. I was just telling our young boys who were very hospitable towards me, I was telling them that this close connection between the teachers and students, it helps the students develop their character as well. In fact, Brahmacharya Ashrama was supposed to be this. When students would stay in the house or the hermitage of the teachers, away from their homes. I think the Kanpur is also, IIT Kanpur is largely residential character, so that you have a scent of this here as well. But there should be something more that we should aim. It is this, that in addition to this career building, which is important, we should have this aspect of character building as well. Karma Yoga says that this attitude of offering your life as a sacrifice, as an offering to others, this transforms karma into yoga. It no longer becomes merely a karma, merely a work, but it becomes a path towards high realization. You can see the next line, what it says, Ma karma phala hetu bhu mate sangha astu akarmani. Well, let me get to the nuances of karma yoga, a little bit to the philosophies that is. Karma yoga says that any work has a result. Karma leads to karma phala. These karma phalas are of two kinds. One is the seen part. You study hard for an exam. Then you see the results being published. This is the seen part. Another is the unseen part. It leaves a samskara, an impression. After 20 years, I go back to the old college of mine. I remember the classroom. I go back to the classroom and rewind those old memories of mine. When I teach in the college, I remember my professors who had taught me during my college and university days. Those samskaras have been imprinted in our minds. You can't catalog them. You can't evaluate them in numbers. But those are indelible. Karma Yoga similarly says that in addition to these seen karma phalas, these samskaras are important. Karma Yoga additionally says that, well, we are bound to karmas because we crave for the results. This is an important doctrine that we have got to understand, okay? We often, many of us, we are put away by this doctrine of Karma Yoga, this doctrine of sacrifice. What does this sacrifice doctrine say? Let's look into that. It says, suppose I try hard to appear for an exam and score good results. Unfortunately, I don't do that. Instead of scoring 90%, I score 60%. I am terribly heartbroken. This impression that has struck me now, this sense of pang, this sense of being unjust or injustice being done, however, we have a hang of that. During the next exam, I strive again. During the next exam, I again remember that the last time I had studied in this manner, I ought to do that better. These are the questions or the items that are no longer important. These are not the ones that are important for this exam, that is. So samskara is something, karma phala is something that leads you to more and more actions. The unfulfilled desires of ours, left over by my earlier karmas, are left to be fulfilled by these later karmas. The later karmas help you or goad you to fulfill these desires. In fact, this is what the important principle of advertisement. Advertisement actually incorporates this principle of vasana. I illustrate this to our students. Suppose you go out on the main road towards Kanpur, you see a big hoarding, a new mobile phone being advertised. On the first shot, you ignored that. Okay? Next time, it leaves more of an impression. As you go on seeing again and again, the desire to own this, it gets stronger and stronger. Of course, we ignore that. We say it's nothing. We barely see an advertisement. We won't be influenced by that when we would really purchase the thing. But in actuality, it remains as a samskara. It puts an impression in our mind that is indelible. So samskaras, karma phalas, and this going ahead to more and more works, the chain of works, the shrinkhala means chain, of karma, karma phalas and samskaras is one of the important doctrine that is incorporated in Hindu philosophy and Buddha philosophy as well. One of the important fallouts of this doctrine is it gradually pushes us to the doctrine of reincarnation. I believe many of you must have seen a cinema by Satyajit Roy. It was known as Sonar Kella. I believe some of you have seen that, Sonar Kella. Sonar Kella actually tells about this reincarnation theory. It tells about a young boy who remembers his earlier incarnation, earlier birth, where he was born in Rajasthan, and the persons who are now his kins, his relatives in Calcutta, take him to Rajasthan to unearth or find those jewels, those treasuries. What this theory of reincarnation that is in Karma Yoga or in Karma, what it says is the works and the karma phalas, they go on endlessly like a chain. It doesn't end only with this birth. The sum total of karma phalas, the parallelogram of forces, okay, we have in mechanics, the sum total of forces, they push you into another birth, as it were. Karma Yoga says, the theory of karma says, that as you think, as you work, similarly you take up another body. Yatha karma, yatha shrutam. As you cherish your ideas, as you cherish the dream, many of the dreams have not been fulfilled, only part of that has been fulfilled. The resultant force, as it were, takes you to another birth and it goes on. Swami Vivekananda in his book Karma Yoga, he says, this is the most logical theory. Because the works that we have done today, they must bear their fruits tomorrow. The works that we do tomorrow must bear their fruit day after tomorrow. The works that we do on the day of our death must also bear their results somewhere. Where do they go? Do they vanish in thin air? So, Karma Yoga, the theory says, we as individuals, the person within, we as it were carry this bundle of karmas and take up another body in which we manifest these karma phalas, these samskaras. And accordingly we move ahead in life in another birth. So this theory of reincarnation is one of the basic pillars or one of the basic premises on which this karma doctrine stands. In ancient India, we want to go back to this educational institutions. This is also one of the prime educational institutions in India. I remember the Taittiriya Upanishad, which tells you of a convocation address. This is a convocation address which the Ramakrishna Mission Vidyamandira University has adopted for itself during its convocation. It comes in the Taittiriya Upanishad. Many of the Ramakrishna Mission boys must be knowing it by this time. It says, Vedam anuchyacharyo ante vasinam anushasti satyam vada dharmam chara swadhyayat ma pramada acharyaya priyam dhanamaritya prajatantum ma vyabachetsi satyanna pramaditavyam dharmanna pramaditavyam Kushalanna pramaditavyam Acharya devo bhava Matri devo bhava Pitri devo bhava. Many of these lines come as important elements in a literature. Okay, what does it say actually? It says the teacher has imparted his teachings to his students. Okay, the student is about to leave. Vedam anuchya acharya antevasanam. Antevasanam is the students. Anushasti, he is giving anushasana, he is giving his last instructions, as it were. What does he say? Satyanna pramaditavyam. You see, you have come out of this university, of this school, and now you have got your learning, what I have to offer, what I have to teach. But when you go to the society wouldn't judge you by the technicalities, whether you have been taught physics, chemistry, computer science, mathematics, astrology, grammar, Sanskrit. No. There are more basic traits to be learnt. What are they? It says, Satyan na pramaditavyam. You do not deviate from the path of truth, Satya. Dharma na pramaditavyam. This dharma is a peculiar word that you find in Sanskrit. Dharma doesn't mean religion in many contexts. Dharma in many contexts stands for duties. Many of you have read the Bhagavad Gita. The first line of the Bhagavad Gita, it says, Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yuyutsava mamakah pandavah shaiva kim akurvata sanjaya. Duryodhana, the blind king, Dhritarashtra, the blind king, he tells Sanjaya, who is the commentator, who is the person who provides the relay. He is asking Sanjaya, Dharma kshetre kurukshetre, on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, which is also the Dharma kshetra, where duties are being performed. Mamaka Pandava Shaiva, my sons and those of the Pandavas, Kim Akurvata Sanjaya, what have they done? What are they doing? The blind king is unable to see, but Sanjaya, he is like the television commentator, okay? So he has a boon of Duradrishti, Durabhashana in the Mahabharata. So Sanjaya, he describes the battlefield to Dhritarashtra. So there, Dharma Kshetra doesn't stand for religion. It stands for the Kshetra, the place where one's own duties ought to be performed. So duties are important. So duties, as it were, Swamiji says, duties are the pillars, are the cornerstones on which human lives are regulated. Swamiji says in a book, Swami Vivekananda says in a book, duty is like the midday scorching sun. I probably referred to this yesterday. Duty is important, but day in and day out, we are, as it were, caught in the web of duty. Duty again and again tells you, you ought to do that, you ought not to do that. You are duty bound. You are a teacher, you are a student, you are a research scholar. This is your duty. You ought to do that, you ought not to do that. In fact, the theory of karma tells you about three kinds of karma. It tells you first about nishiddha karma, second about sakama karma, and thirdly about nishkama karma. The first step is the nishiddha karma. Nishiddha karma, of course, is easy to understand. The society as a whole, it stands together and takes up a few decisions. It says, these are the works which are nishiddha. And these are the works which are sanctioned by society. Okay? But human propensities, they often move towards nishiddha karma as well. In spite of ourselves, in spite of the best of intentions, we find a being within us, a voice within us, again and again dragging us, in spite of ourselves, towards what are termed as nishiddha karma, what should not be done. How to wean ourselves out of that? It says, instead, tum sakam karma karo. Sakam are works with desires. Yes, I do a work. I work in the office to earn a living. I want that at the end of month, I would have a salary for myself. I work to earn a living. The Shastra says that isn't bad. You have a goal in life to earn a living, but do that righteously, truthfully. do that work without blinking your eyelids away from your duties in life. Duties of your station in life, that is. As a person goes on in this fashion, doing sakama karma for a number of years, truthfully, honestly, at one point of time, there is a voice within which asks him, is that enough? Have I done enough? Am I supposed to do still greater work? Where do I start? Am I caught in the web of duty in sakama karma? Can I go beyond? There is no immediate answer. There is a knocking on the doors. There is a desire to go beyond. Swamiji says it is here that real religion starts. When there is a call from within, as it were, the antarayamin, who stands within all of us. The voice within, the lone voice within that tells you, you ought to go higher. You ought to go beyond. You shouldn't be caught in the web of duties. This is where nishkama karma starts. Nishkama karma sometimes frightens us, okay? Works without the desire for fruits. This is difficult, isn't it? I remember when I go to students' forums, youth circles, they tell us, Swamiji, you are getting unrealistic, okay? It's good that you sit on the platform, be a sannyasin and advise us good words on nishkama karma. You are not practical enough to understand the world. We fight in the world. This is a difficult and cruel world. Again and again we have to fight. Do those archaic theories apply now of nishkama karma? Nishkama karma theory tells us that you get the greatest benefit of life by working for the sake of others. How do you do that really? Okay? Bhagavad Gita tells you that you can do that in steps. The pure theory of nishkama karma tells you that you do work without having any desire for results. Well, that's very difficult. Okay? Swami Vivekananda says in his book, the pure karma yogin, the world has probably seen very less of them. Bhagavan Buddha was one of them, he says. He was the person who could stand erect, straight and say, I do not want anything for any work. I do work only for the sake of others. Bahujana hitaya, Bahujana sukhaya. My religion is only for the sake of others, not for myself. Swamiji says, but the vast majority of persons like us, we are on a slightly lower plane. For us, the easier way to practice karma yoga is mentally to offer the fruits of work to Bhagavan, to the Virat. The Bhagavad Gita says, imagine this whole society that we stay in, that we derive our sustenance from, as a huge Virat. Virat is the cosmic form of God in different human beings. This Virat, you offer your work as a flower, as an offering to this Virat, to this cosmic form of Bhagavan. It is then that work can be gradually transformed into worship. Work no longer remains a bondage, it becomes a source of joy, a source of upliftment, a source of mental raising up. How do you practice that, in fact? Some of our boys have been telling me again and again, Maharaj, theories are good, but tell us something practical. How do we really do that? It's good lectures, interesting to listen, but after you go out of the hall, everything vanishes. Okay? There's nothing remaining which we can practice in real life. Okay? So I'll tell you my experience. In the Ramakrishna Mission, the rule is, if you want to join as a monastic member, for 9 years you have to stay in white clothes. Our ex-students know that very well. This is known as the Brahmachari period. Okay? On the 10th year, provided you have gone along well, that is in a disciplined fashion, on the 10th year you get this ochre robe. You become a sannyasin. During the period of staying white, that is brahmachari, I remember we were once asked to put some questions to a senior sadhu. The senior sadhu today is the president of the Ramakrishna Mission today. He is Swami Atmasthanaji Maharaj. So I remember I was a young novice at the time. I asked him, Maharaj, it's good to listen to Karma Yoga, but how do we practice that really? Okay? Suppose I am working on accounts, trying to balance the totals. Suppose another person is working out his mathematical formula. At every step, does he close his eyes and submit all his fruits to the Lord? If you are cooking, and with every soup that you put into the bowl, you close your eyes and remember God, probably the soup would get burned by that time, okay? Your mathematical calculation would all get wrong by that time. How do you really practice Karma Yoga? Is it really feasible that you remember Bhagavan, God or whatever it is at every step? I remember he kept quiet for a time and he said, well, yes, as you finish your work, you offer the work as a fruit, as an offering to Bhagavan. It's not easy. By practice again and again, you can do this. Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna tells Arjuna, he says, Abhyasena tu kaunteya, vairagyena chagrihyate. How do you practice Karma Yoga? He tells there are two cardinal principles. One is Abhyasa, another is Vairagya. Why is Abhyasa necessary? Abhyasa is repeated practice. Okay? It's a difficult discipline. You wouldn't succeed at the first step. Try again and again and again. Many of you must have heard the story of Robert Bruce, King of Scotland. Okay? Scotland and England is supposed to have had, that is, a running feud for a long time. And Robert Bruce was the King of Scotland. He has been defeated. And ultimately he fled the forces. He is in the forest. He is in disguise actually. He has gone to a hut and he lies down on a cot, demoralized. He thinks for himself that, well, we have fought wars. My soldiers have been telling me again and again, O king, don't prolong the war. You surrender. It's useless. The England army is strong enough. We can't win the battle. But I had persisted again and again. But no more. It's useless. Today I must surrender. He had a vacant look. His mind was morose. As he looked up, he saw a spider preparing a web. Spider's web. The spider is crawling up along the wall. It goes up, tries to prepare a web. Again it falls down. All of you must have seen spiders doing that, isn't it? The spider doesn't give up. Again and again and again, it crawls up again. Again it prepares a web. Finally, at one point of time, it succeeds. This incident acted like a switch in this king's mind. He got up. He felt, I should also try again. And again he marshaled his forces and finally he won. In Sanskrit there is a word, it's known as dhriti, perseverance. One of the important components of practice is this abhyasa, trying again and again. It won't be easy. All of us who have gone for higher education, we know this. It's not easy to control the mind. Okay? You have had a game of hockey or basketball in your court in the evening. Then after your food, you try to concentrate on your studies. Would that come immediately? It won't. You concentrate, you put your book in front, you look up to the watch. Half an hour has gone in the middle. Not a single page has been turned. You look back, you understand that your mind has been roving in the volleyball courts and the basketball courts Instead of looking and remembering the formulas in the books, it had been wondering about the quarrels that you have had on the courts. Your mind had wondered, why didn't I give a suitable reply at the time? Next time I get an opportunity, I'll give him a real lesson, a hard lesson, okay? When you suddenly look at the book is open. You have probably read a few words as well, but none has been registered. Okay? Abhyasa. The theory of yoga says that at that point of time, there are steps. It's known as pratyahara. Pratyahara means you loosen the mind, allow it to drift like a kite. Let it go to the football ground, the basketball court, to the dining place, the canteen, the laboratory. After a point of time, just like a person who flies the kite, flying a kite, at that point of time, he gradually takes the rope back, the twine back. The kite comes nearer and nearer and nearer. The mind also, after loitering around for a time, it comes back to the subject matter. You try to concentrate. Can you delve deeper? No, you can't do that. As you try to fix your mind more and more, after a time, it gets tired again. It says, बहुत कुछ किया, अभी छोड़ दो भाई, कितना टाइम, मुझे आओ थोड़ा सा घूमने दो, इस तरफ उस तरफ घूम के आओ एक बार, नहीं तो एटलीस्ट गाना तो सुन ले अच्छी तरह से, जोर से चला दो स्टीरियो. The mind again goes on wandering this way and that. Okay? But don't leave the mind like that. The mind has endless powers. To sharpen the mind, to harness the powers of the mind, you must control it. You must be able to give it a tough shot sometimes, to cane it sometimes. Acharya Shankara, the great philosopher, he has a book, it's known as Vivekananda. He says in that book, you see, the mind after all is like a kid. If you allow it too much of indulgence, it would go waste. It won't concentrate at all. But if you cane it too much, discipline it too much, punish it too much, it'll start crying like a naughty child. It won't concentrate either. So sometimes you punish it, and sometimes you caress it as well. In the process, you try to concentrate your mind on the book, on the subject matter. As you gradually concentrate, the printed words, probably printed years earlier, are like the keys in a lock. The mind, through that printed word, goes back to the world, another world, where the resources, the subject matter that we had studied earlier, the locks are opened. You try to tally what you had read earlier with what you are reading now. Educational psychology says it's like a library that the mind has. It has catalogued the different things that have been read earlier. As you pick up something new, it tries to compare with things what have been read earlier. If you can tally that, the mind is satisfied. ठीक ही है, कोई बात नहीं. If it can't tally, it's morose. It's कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा है, क्या बोल रहे हैं लोग. But as you go on drilling, like a drilling machine again and again, the words, it unravels the mystery. Okay? It unravels the mystery. But the power of concentration is necessary. So abhyasa is necessary for harnessing the mind. The second one it says is vairagya. Abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena cha grihyate. O kaunteya, O son of Kunti. Who is the son of Kunti? Arjuna. O son of Kunti. Abhyasena tu kaunteya. Through abhyasa and through vairagya, dispassion, it should be properly held. Cha grihyate. It should be properly held. What should be held? What is vairagya? Vairagya is giving up concern for things what is not immediately being concentrated in. You want to concentrate on a book, but you go on thinking about the India-Pakistan match in the Asia Cup. Okay? So you can't concentrate on the book. Okay? Day in and day out, the cricket match is going on in your mind. But you tell your mind, I won't think about this. You banish it, banish the thought for the time being. For the time being, one of our Swamis used to tell, you put a notice board in your mind and say, This thought is not allowed now. But the thoughts are very spooky creatures, They come like invisible things, like an air, drifting air. It comes and gradually gets into again. It says, I am there, don't worry. You try to banish me, I am there. But you must tell again, no, this time is not for you. You come again, come later. I won't banish you forever. It would be there. Take a time. I tell my students one example, okay? We often give a little indulgence to the mind. Suppose you have an exam tomorrow. We often show students cricket matches on screens in our hostels, okay? So tomorrow you have our final exams. The students tell each other, don't worry, I'll go for 15 minutes, I'll watch the match. They'll come back again, they'll start studying again. He goes to the auditorium, he looks at the stadium. On the screen, he's enamored. There is a part of the mind which tells him, hurry, the exam is there tomorrow. Please be aware, please be aware. He tells the mind, don't worry, there's plenty of time in the night time. I'll study more in the night time, I'll make up everything, okay? Everything will be okay. Now look at the screen. Swami Vivekananda used to say, it's like the camel in the desert, the mind. Earlier, there would be hunters in jeeps who would hunt camels in the desert. Camels have long legs, you have seen that, isn't it? So camels with their long legs, they would strike the deserts. But how much speed they might have had, the jeeps are much speedier. At one point of time, the jeep is almost about to overtake the camel. Then the camel is tired. The camel, what it does is, it drills a hole with his mouth in the desert and he puts his mouth within. He has the idea that he is no longer able to see the jeep anymore. The jeep also won't be able to see it anymore, okay? One point of time, you must be able to tell your mind, I won't do this. Boys and girls tell us, Maharaj, we go on telling this, but our mind doesn't hear. We go on telling that this is not for you now, but it doesn't listen. What is the way out? Abhyasa is the way out. Some bit of resolve, some bit of strength. Karma Yoga asks again and again people to be strong. Karma Yoga is the path to be strong, to be practical. It's a yoga which is not theoretical. It can't be that you are armchair philosophers. You sit in the armchair, discuss yoga, discuss meditation, and then tomorrow you give another lecture from this podium. This is not Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is to be practiced. In fact, Swamiji says in one place, he says, you see, to be able to judge whether a person is really a yogi, you have got to understand him morning and night. You must watch him morning and night. You must watch his daily actions. Swamiji says in one place, you see, everyone is a great person in front of the floodlights. The floodlights are there. The arc light falls on you. You stand on the podium, give a good lecture. There is election time is over. You are anointed to be a minister. You stand on the podium, give good lectures, okay? But Swamiji says, he indeed is a yogi who is a hero to his valet. Valet, V-A-L-E-T, valet. Valet means a personal attendant. A personal attendant sees you in the day, he sees you in the night. So your small actions even are closely scrutinized by a person who sees you day in and day out. So a Karma Yogin is a person who takes care even of the small details of life. He is not a person who only takes care of the bigger goals. I want to be successful in life, that's my only goal. I want to have a few big awards for myself. I don't care for the day-to-day activities of ours. Karma Yogin is a person who ought to be judged by his day-to-day small actions. He tries to take care of every small details of life. It isn't easy. But Karma Yoga is a discipline that all of us we are practicing to a degree actually. All of us to a degree we are practicing Karma Yoga. Swamiji says in one of his lectures, he says, You see, there was a young mother. She was crossing the road. And then a car had come from the another direction. She's afraid. She flies for her life. But another day, she has a child of hers in her hand. And from another direction, a tiger comes. But now this mother, she is prepared to sacrifice herself. She puts herself first for the sake of the child. So when you have this feeling of niswarthata, sacrifice, the courage within blooms. It's not merely physical prowess alone. This ability to sacrifice, the ability to be selfless, gradually sows the seed of strength of character within. It doesn't make you a very muscular person. Of course, physical ability is important. But it's more a question of your dedication and your attitude towards life. Karma Yoga tells you that as you practice more and more of this dedication, it is how a character grows. What is character? Swamiji says, character is the sum total of impressions that different works leave on us. A man is judged by the different works that he has really performed in his life. The sum total of all these works define his character. He says every work is like one impression on the mind stuff. And the sum total of all these impressions prepare what is known as character. Swamiji thus tells us that you see every work thus is important. He says, you see, often we feel that there are some physical works, there are some mental works. Often we tell ourselves, you see, this is after all only a blemish that has been done mentally. It's nothing. No physical harm has come about. Swamiji tells in his book, you see, when you undertake a physical action, the seeds of that physical action has come as a mental wave much earlier. Mentally, the wave that you have got to do this work, you should do this work, you ought to do this work, has come like a hammer a number of times. Once, twice, thrice, fourth, fifth. Finally, you are unable to contain yourself. You go ahead and do this work. Hence, even every thought finally is important. Hence, a karma yogin must be careful about his own thoughts even. It's not merely the grosser physical works that we do. We must realize that these grosser physical works are finally in the seed form developed in thought, in the mind. It is there that samskara or karma phala is important. Karma phala should be properly purified by niswartha karma, by karma yoga. And it is then that the seeds of the future karma are gradually, in Sanskrit says, the English would be burnt. Bharjita phala. What does bharjita phala means? I know that some of you are interested in philosophy, so I took the liberty of at least discussing some of these aspects. Bharjita phala means, suppose you have a seed, you fry it, okay? If you put it on the ground, you won't find a sapling coming out of that, okay? So although the seed has its form externally, even then, it wouldn't have the power to germinate. Similarly, Sri Ramakrishna gives this example. Suppose you have a chain of iron, you can bind a person with a chain. But if there is a Porosh Muni, the philosopher's stone, and it has turned into gold, then you don't use it for binding anymore. Lohar Shikal, Shonar Shikal. By doing better and better works, earlier works which had resulted in bondage will result in freedom. What does a karma yogi do? Does he renounce the world? The greatest enunciators of karma yoga, that is Krishna and the listener, Arjuna, none of them were sages or hermits. Okay? Ascharyo Vakta Kushalosya Labdha. Ascharya Vakta, the wonderful teacher, Vakta. Kushala Asya Labdha. Kushala is dexterous, efficient. labdha. So a teacher, he gives his highest teaching when he finds a good student, isn't it? If a student is inquisitive, he puts good question. If he is a real learner, the teacher becomes inspired and gives the highest teaching. So the highest teacher, one of the greatest teacher, Krishna, and his able student Arjuna, both of them were grihasthas. So this stress on sannyasa had only come later on. It was one of the offshoots of Bauddha Dharma. In Bauddha Dharma, irrespective of caste, often irrespective of propensities, sannyasa or the shramana, bhikshu, it was encouraged. In fact, Swami Vivekananda had this view that indiscriminate sannyasa or encouragement of sannyasa had resulted in the weakening of the Indian race. It was his contention that the nation ought to be strong enough to perform the duties of life. Indiscriminate going of sannyasa, you remember the days of Ashoka, his son, Mahendra and Shanghamitra. When plenty of persons went to sannyasa, the basic structure, the frame of the society was disturbed. In Swami Vivekananda's view, he said, it was this reason that foreign conquerors could easily come in and invade the land. And hence, Karma Yoga tells you that in whichever station in life you are, you must be strong enough to perform them with dignity, with concentration, and with a spirit of sacrifice, with the idea that the work that you perform and its fruits are like offerings to the Almighty, to the Virat that the society stands for. In the process, we enlarge upon our characters, our personalities. In a way, as I had been saying you earlier as well, I'll end with this. As I had been telling you earlier, in a way, all of us, we perform this to a bit. The mother performs this in a family. The office superintendent performs this in the office. The teacher performs this in the class. Everyone performs this to a degree. In English, we say charity begins at home. As we do it consciously in our small circle, we understand the joy of selfless work more and more. I'll end with the personal experience, and we could have some question and answer after this. I remember when I was a young boy, studying probably in 6 or 7 in our school, we would have a ritual every year. We would say a Daridra Narayan Seva. We would have a poor person's colony just in the vicinity of our school. Hundreds of poor persons and young children would come, and we who were schoolgoers at the time, we would serve them lunch food, lunch prasadam. I still remember once when I was doing this, suddenly like the curtain being raised, I suddenly felt that I was one with them. The service suddenly, for 1 second as it were, gave me this feeling, gave me this realization, that small child that I was, that by service, like a bridge, I am becoming one with them. These poor persons who had come from the colony, they are low, I am high. I come from a well-to-do family, and they come from poor family. It's not that. These bhedas, these differences are all broken as it were. The indwelling self within all of us, it manifests through this service. Swamiji had stressed on this service, Shibho Jnana Jibo Shiva. We had discussed this yesterday. This doctrine of service transforms karma yoga into a worship, into a path of God realization. This yoga thus is no longer something which constricts ourselves to our own duties. It breaks the barriers. It takes us to unknown realms of life where we can discuss and discover the joy of living. Living and passing our lives then no longer becomes a boredom. It's not something that causes depression. It's a big problem today. There is a joy in sacrifice. There is a joy in living our lives. There is a small incident I was telling these young students today in the morning. It comes in Dale Carnegie's How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. These were the days of the Great Depression, 1930s. There was a family in America. The head of the household, he had lost his job. There were 5 children. And one of the children, he had gone to the grocer's shop. He had asked the grocer for the things to be sold without giving the money now. The grocer was angry. He had said, you had purchased the things without giving money a number of times. Why are you doing it again? Why are you doing it again? But the boy was helpless. The grocer, in his anger, his indignation, he started shouting that this boy is stealing articles from his shop. The boy was insulted. He goes back to his mother, and the mother is aggrieved. She decides to commit suicide. She shuts all the windows, puts the gas on. The gas gradually fills the whole room. The mother smells the gas. She is there along with her young daughter. The daughter asks the mother, "Mother, why are we sleeping again? We have slept only a little earlier. It's barely in the noon. We had only risen from our sleep 2 hours later." The mother said, "Okay, don't worry, you sleep again." The gas gradually fills the room. The mother had kept the radio on in the kitchen, and in that kitchen, suddenly, the radio blares a song. The song says, it's a Christmas carol. It says that we are blessed enough to have this human life. There are pitfalls, but we should be grateful to the Almighty that we have had many of our good things in life. The mother, as she hears this, she gets up. She opens the window. She gives up this resolve of committing suicide. She writes in her memoirs, it's not that all the problems were solved immediately, but we had the courage to live our life again. This dependence on God gave us a strength to sustain our lives. This life would have its pitfalls, would have its problems, but stand up, be strong, believe in yourself, believe in God. This would be the source of sustenance in your life. This is what Karma Yoga tells you. This is how we should perform Karma Yoga. Perform work in the spirit of sacrifice. I end this talk with the words that performing Karma Yoga and getting the fruits of Karma Yoga can only come by practice, not by words. The Vivek Chudamani says, wonderful words, flowery words, words ringing with music wouldn't give you satisfaction. Vag Vaikhari Shabda Jhari Shabda Vyakhyana Kaushalam. Wonderful words, jingling words. They are wonderful, good to listen. But you have got to practice. Practice the disciplines. Then only you will get the real fruits of Karma Yoga. Thank you.
Now in this question and answer session, I would like to request Yancy if there are any questions. Please take and ask now.
Swamiji, it's our privilege to have you in our midst, and you have made your lecture very interesting, illustrative, substantial, full of reasoning, argumentative, purposeful, and blissful as well. I just offer my reverential pranam to you. I just intend to offer, take a reference to slokas from the third chapter Karma Yoga of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Number one is Nahi Kaschit Khanamopi Jatu Tistatta Karmakrit Kajjate Hi Avasa Karma Sarvam Prakriti Gure. I just intend to have the meaning of the same, that everybody is supposed to do the work around the clock. Nobody can remain inactive even for a single moment. The nature-born qualities, the three qualities which have been lying with the nature, Satya, Raja, Tamo. Number one is quality of goodness. Number two is principle of activity. Number three is principle of inertia. That three nature-born qualities have been lying with the nature, and we are being helplessly driven to put to action, even involuntarily against our willingness. Am I right in holding my opinion?
Okay.
I just intend to share my views and exchange my views with you. And number two is Karmano opi buddhibang cha vikarmana akarmanascha buddhibang gahana karmano goti. That the truth about action must be known, and the truth about the prohibited action must also be known, and the truth about inaction is also required to be known. Mysterious are the ways of actions. As you have told a bit earlier, that twofold divisions are there in karma, that is the part of activity. One is the action with attachment, and number two is the part is without attachment. And what does the sense of karma mean?
Okay, I will get to the answer. Huh?
Okay.
Achha, the first sloka that he referred to, he said, Nahi kaschit kshanamapi jatu karmanyatandrita karyate hi abashah karma sarva prakriti jair gunai. First part it says is, not for a moment even can one remain without work. Okay? These are very good slokas in the Bhagavad Gita. Actually it says is, suppose someone asks me that what work am I really doing? Just sitting here and listening to your lecture. So Karma Yoga says, even when you sit, you have this manasika karma, you are thinking, you are listening, putting your mind to the lecture, or probably your mind is loitering somewhere else. Whatever it is, your mind is active for the time being. Or the basic physical actions of breathing, this is there. Batting our eyelids, it's there. So without work, we cannot remain even for a moment of time. But it says, this sloka, karyate hi abashah karma. This verb karyate is wonderful. It has a causative tone. Causative means, causative means, give you an example of causative verb. The mother shows the moon to her son. Nijanto. Causative is nijanto. It means that the person is made to do work without his volition, as it were. Sarva prakriti jair gunai. Why is it happening? It is happening because of prakriti, because of our nature. Prakriti, the word prakriti, is used to mean external prakriti as well. We say, aha, prakriti, bahut badhiya prakriti dekho charo taraf. Ki sundar prakriti. It's not this prakriti. This prakriti stands for the internal prakriti. The internal prakriti is supposed to contain three strands, three ropes as it were. Sattva guna, Rajoguna and Tamoguna. Tamoguna is inertia, laziness. Rajoguna is tremendous activity. Sometimes in spite of ourselves, we want to rest for a while after completing a work. But there's something within which pushes you and says, no, you can't rest now. You have got to do the work which is there tomorrow. Immediately, you've got to do. After I finish that, I feel I should rest now. But the mind again comes in and says, no, you can't rest now. Another work is there now. This is the Rajaguna. Sattva Guna is the tranquility which comes at the end of Rajaguna. All of us, we have moments of Sattva Guna, okay? But often we can't distinguish between them. We often can't realize them. In yoga it is said, during the morning and during the evening, Pratah and Sayam, when the external Prakriti is Shanta, okay? When the night turns into day, or in the day turns into night, Pratah or Sayam, at that time, the mind within also can easily be tranquilized, be calmed. It says, these are the moments when you ought to meditate, ought to try your concentrate, ought to try to concentrate your mind. So this external Prakriti helps in tranquilizing your calming or putting a rein on your internal Prakriti as well. So it says ordinary men, as it were, in spite of themselves, are being driven by their Prakriti. Karma Yoga would help you reining those tendencies. The second one was, you must distinguish between what is karma, work, the duties, what is vikarma, you shouldn't do them, nishiddha karma. Third one is akarma. Akarma is a higher concept. It says it's a state of worklessness. In the Bhagavad Gita, actually, in the second chapter, Sri Krishna says, in fact, he starts with this teaching to Arjuna. He says, remember, you are the soul, the limitless, the birthless, ajopit san avyayatma, bhutanam ishvaropi san. It says that remember, you are the free soul, the spirit. Do work from this perspective. Just imagine, okay? The person, he is morose, he is unable to fight. He says, I won't fight. He is being given the highest teaching of the Atman. Okay? So Sri Krishna starts from this highest teaching, but he is practical enough. He understands that this high philosophy alone wouldn't go or push Arjuna to fight. So he climbs down little. Then he goes on telling about practical work, karma yoga, bhakti, devotion, and meditation, yoga. So Sri Krishna, when he speaks about akarma is the state of worklessness. All of us, we attain to this state for a blink, for a second. Then we again drift towards work again. I think we are more or less satisfied. Question. And next.
Any more questions?
Swamiji, you had said about Swami Vivekananda saying that taking extreme sannyasa, indiscriminate sannyasa, will lead to destruction of the basic structure of society. Now, it is well known from historical records that Buddhism has traveled from India to other parts like Sri Lanka and China and Indonesia and other places as well. I take the example of China, and it is not seeming to do bad, and it is under the influence of Buddhism right now.
It isn't under the influence of Buddhism.
It is.
Is. Does communist China speak about Buddhism?
But I know China. I mean, I have Chinese friends as well, and they are Buddhists.
No. What was your question?
My question is, how relevant is that comment by saying that taking indiscriminate sannyasa, the whole structure of the society would be spoiled? How relevant is that?
That was the question. Actually, believing in the doctrine of Buddhism and taking to sannyasa is not the same, okay? So, believing in Buddhism, in the lofty teachings of Buddhism, many of them were very, very lofty teachings. In fact, Swamiji, when he started this organizer of the Ramakrishna Mission, he strongly quoted Buddha, the doctrine of Bahujana Hitaya, Bahujana Sukhaya, sacrifice, in the large heart of Buddha, was something which drew the admiration of Swami Vivekananda. But Buddhism had at the same time been a breaker of barrier of caste. You can understand this historically. Actually, Bhagavan Buddha was born as a Kshatriya. Okay? It was a time when the Vedic Kriya Kanda, the Vedas have two divisions. One is known as the Karma Kanda, one is known as the Jnana Kanda. Karma Kanda deals with sacrifice, rituals, and Jnana Kanda deals with philosophy, Upanishads. So in those days, when Buddha was born, Karma Kanda was treated as the Veda, that is. So animal sacrifices and being stuck to rituals was considered very important. Buddha, in a sense, was a breaker of these barriers. He threw the caste barriers. He himself was a Kshatriya. In fact, the Buddhist religion has three Pitakas, three books which are supposed to be the pillars of Buddhism. Out of these three, one was composed by Upali. Upali, interestingly, was a barber originally. But Buddha was magnanimous enough to include Buddha into the fold of Shraman, okay, into the fold of the mendicants. That was a good thing that he did. But you see, historically, in today's perspective, things which are good, in course of time, some of the ill effects come to the fore as well. Swamiji, although being one of the admirers of Buddha, had pointed to one aspect which probably was a negative aspect of Buddhism. It was this, that people in all stations of life shouldn't be given the highest ideals. It's not that all are not fit for this. Only what it says is this. Swamiji says this, another lecture, he says, if you again and again go on lauding sannyasa, the grihastha who leads a pious life, he would start feeling that what I am doing is something wrong. He would suffer from inferiority complex. The basic structure of society would be at peril. Hence, this was one of the fallouts of Buddhism that he said. Okay, I remember I had gone to Nagpur to speak on Swami Vivekananda at the Nagpur University. In the question and answer comment, I had made such a remark. I still remember, I didn't understand that time. Actually, B.R. Ambedkar, he had taken en masse to Buddhism at Nagpur. So Nagpur has a lot of Buddhist followers. And I remember one of them coming up and saying, Maharaj, what do you mean, etc. I remember this when you put the question. So Swamiji, what he meant was, Adhikari Vada is important at one point of time. Okay, what I was mentioning probably yesterday, you can't ask everyone to come up for higher education if you don't have the inclination, you don't have the liking, you don't have the propensity. Similarly, with the different stations of life as well. Okay.
I think his vision was 550 BC, I think. They did a Buddhism. 550 BC.
No, actually Buddha came from one period, but Buddhism traveled a long way. Okay. Buddha's time is one. Actually, in our religion we say again and again, Dharma comes in a wave. This comes in Bhagavad Gita also, you see. That you see Dharma or the religion of one era or one time, in course of time it degenerates. Okay. Because the practitioners of the original Dharma, when they go away, the followers, they do not practice Dharma similarly. So in course of time you require another person to come as a corrective, as it were. So Buddha was a person who addressed the problem of that age. In course of time, you require another corrective for another person to come in. Bhagavad Gita has that famous sloka, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyam. It's a wonderful sloka. It comes with the 4th adhyaya. It says, Yada yada hi dharmasya, whenever dharma has a glani, is diluted as it were. There are perils in the dharma, when there are other impurities. Glanir bhavati bharata, abhyutthanam adharmasya. When dharma is at peril, adharma is on the rise. People start saying, young boys from the society, they start saying, Maharaj, what is the point of leading an ethical life? People who lead an ethical life and disciplined life, they are the sufferers, we say. So this strikes at the root of society. People are losing faith in an ethical life. It's not young boys and girls to be blamed alone. Guardians, parents and teachers, we also have to take the blame actually. What we set an example as examples, young boys and girls follow similarly. So if we elders or middle-aged persons, if we are convinced with dharma about a righteous life, young boys can be inspired easily. They take us as role models in a sense. So what we practice, we transmit similarly. So dharma similarly, after a point of time, there is a lack of belief in dharma. It is at that time like another wave as it were, another person comes and does a corrective. So dharma suits the person, the problem of the time. Another age, you require another correction again. Okay. Yes, anyone? Yes. So we can wind up.
So before we conclude, I would like to share a small parable on this practice of Karma Yoga. So I hope that we should not just limit ourselves to the theory of Karma Yoga or for that matter any philosophy, but how important is the practice aspect. So one girl once wrote a letter to Gandhiji. So in that letter she said, गांधी जी आप बोलते हैं कि संध्या वंदना करना चाहिए, शाम को पूजा करना चाहिए, तो मैं बैठती हूँ बट ध्यान पूजा में नहीं लगता है, ध्यान इधर उधर भटकता रहता है। आप
मन भटकने
इधर उधर भटकने लगता है। और साथ ही में आप ये बोलते हो कि ढोंग नहीं करना चाहिए, तो मैं सोच रही हूँ कि ये तो एक प्रकार का ढोंग ही है। तो मैं यही जानना चाहती हूँ, क्या मैं पूजा छोड़ दूँ? तो गांधी जी ने इसका उत्तर यही दिया कि तुम पूजा को क्यों छोड़ती हो, तुम ढोंग को छोड़ो। Similarly, another small, very humorous parable. One hermit once went to take a bath in a kund, in a spring. So there were two springs adjacent to one another. Due to some beliefs or some particular occasion, on one of the springs it was too much of crowd. On the other there was nobody taking bath. So since people were all taking bath in this, so the hermit thought that it is pious and more valuable to take bath in this. What happened in course of time was that he lost his ring that was there in his finger. So then he thought that it is almost impossible to search the ring in this pool of water because hundreds and thousands of people are taking bath there. So he started searching in the other pool. So since he was searching, so we typically Indians are always towards helping a sadhu. So people asked Sadhuji, Swamiji, what happened? He said, I lost my ring, I am searching for it, and the other guys also joined the search. So everybody was searching, so many people came. Suddenly one intelligent fellow finally turned up and he asked this question, Swamiji, where did you lose your ring? So he said that, well, I lost the ring in the other pool. So then he asked, then why are you searching it here? So he said, searching here is easier. so we are typically motivated towards practicing the easier way of life, but we give away the harder practices. So Karma Yoga is undoubtedly not easy. If you are not trained, it does not come easy. But nobody said that it will be easy. But the fruits of practicing Karma Yoga are not also undervalued. We are talking of liberation to the highest order. So we must take up the Karma Yoga in its true sense, practice it in our day-to-day lives, and then move towards the path of liberation. So on this note, I thank you all of you for turning up on both the days, and I thank Swamiji for his time and effort that he could spend his time with all of us. He could share such wonderful ideas. We hope that all of us have benefited, and we also would request Swamiji to visit us on another occasion and enlighten us on such topics once again. On this occasion, I thank Swamiji and all of you once again.